Greetings, kindred. Wishing you all happy new moon. So let's just get into it. So the new moon will begin on July 24th at 2011 in the GMT time zone, at 1511 in the EDT time zone, and the new moon will begin on July 25th at 5:11 in the AEDT time zone. So as the new moon begins, she will be conjunct the Sun at 3 degrees in the sign of Cancer. So the moon is in its own sign, and that makes it pretty strong. And with the moon in Cancer, it really is all about depth and intensity of emotions. You know, it's all about our emotional well-being. But it also makes us very psychic and very prone to mood swings, you know, depending on the environmental conditioning that's surrounding us. But also with the moon in Cancer, you know, we can tend to isolate ourselves, go into retreat, you know, when things get a little bit too overwhelming. So, you know, it is quite an overwhelming time with the moon conjunct the Sun in the sign of Cancer. Now, the moon is always conjunct the Sun at a new moon, you know, but we also have some very kind of intense planetary aspects as well that go alongside that, which is all about feelings and emotions and intensity. You know, we do have the moon and Sun in opposition to Pluto, and they're all in square to Chiron, who's at 35 degrees in Pisces. Now, Pluto is just retrograding in the sign of Capricorn at the moment. This is like strong feelings are really oozing out here into our environment, you know, so we can see that there will be a lot of disputes, a lot of aggressive tendencies with this, and there's definitely a lack of feeling or consideration or empathy with this opposition, and with them but all in square to Chiron. You know, it's like we have to fight for our autonomy. You know, it triggers traumas, and you know, it can actually leave us feeling a little bit powerless as well. So we definitely need to watch out for that. Although this is a very psychic energy, it is very difficult for us to trust our instincts with this aspect, with the moon in square to Chiron. It tends to make us emotionally erratic, and we definitely feel that we lack support. The thing is with the moon in the sign of Cancer is that we can become too dependent emotionally on another for support. We can be quite clingy and quite smothering as well with the moon in Cancer. So it's really all about learning to stand on our own 2 feet, to be in our own self-power. And if we're not in that place, then, you know, the best thing to do is to retreat and work on that with whatever really works for you, you know, because we all need different things. We're not all built the same way. So some of us have different needs from others, you know, so we really need to focus on ourselves and maybe even reach out to people for guidance, not necessarily support, but to be pointed in the right direction if we are feeling that sense of powerlessness, or if we are feeling vulnerable because we're feeling a little bit isolated or a little bit alone. But also we have to watch out for conflicts within family environments, or even like within group activities, or even in our communities. So I feel like there is like this escalation of erupting emotions, basically, And, we've been seeing that for quite a while, but this new moon is very, very relevant to kind of emotional eruptions, especially with, the moon and sun in opposition to Pluto and both in square to Chiron, who's transiting through Pisces. Now, Chiron in Pisces is very deep. It's, a very deep emotional wound. So there's going to be a lot of triggering energy going on around this new moon. And especially with Mercury retrograding in the sign of Cancer at the moment, where we tend to live in the past a lot emotionally, especially at 15 degrees, maybe we're wanting to put all the wrongs right in the world. Things are coming to light. 15 degrees it is all about those who have abused power. So it could be that many of us are reflecting on old grievances as well, when really we should be healing those and leaving them in the past, but really depending on what those grievances are. Yep, so there's a lot of emotional wounding that's being triggered, old traumas, even fresh traumas that are arising now in this day and age. So, we need to watch out for that, for a lot of eruptions or a lot of breakouts. It's a very, very restless, but also a very, very highly sensitive energy that's going on here. We also have the moon in trying to both Saturn and Neptune that have just come into conjunction recently. Is a very rare conjunction, both in retrograde as well. So it can make us reserved, but it can also make us overcautious or hypersensitive. But it also gives us the ability of high endurance as well, especially when it comes to long range goals and achieving those. But in retrograde, maybe we're reflecting on that. Maybe we're reflecting on just how much we've already been through and just how much further we need to go. So maybe, there's like a feeling of being drained right now, or feeling a little bit depressed right now, even a little bit of melancholy there with certain people or certain situations. But with Neptune in conjunction here in retrograde in Pisces as well, Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. We need to be careful that we are staying in a place of reality, that we're giving ourselves a reality check or keeping ourselves grounded, because this energy can also take us off planet. We can also build castles in the sky. Our imagination can be a little bit warped right now with all the traumas or the triggering that's going on. So we may not be seeing things in a realistic way. So we need to watch out for that as well. And we also have Juno and Ceres in quincunx. So here's Juno here, and here's the quincunx towards Ceres in Pisces. Now Juno is in Libra. So this can be very, very kind of unbalanced energy that's going on here. I mean, Juno is very loyal, whereas Ceres, it kind of represents the abuse or the suffering we've experienced in life. And Juno has suffered too, but she still stays loyal, whereas Ceres doesn't avenge, but does kind of bring it into the open. Ceres will cut away the dead wood. So this quincunx can kind of create extremes with protectiveness and possessiveness. Both can be overprotective or overpossessive, but this is all about the feminine energy. So I do feel there is a strong feeling of protection towards the feminine. And, that can create a lot of trauma and triggers to surface as well. Or maybe it's due to traumas and triggers. We do also have another T-square with the nodes, and Mars conjunct the South Node, and they're all in square to Venus. Now, this is where we can really question like the group actions of society, or even like the militaristic values. Also, with this conjunction here, we can act without consideration. We can lash out or antagonize situations. And I do feel that's really going on as well. It's really reaching its peak right now, where people are just kind of lashing out due to triggers, due to emotional eruptions. And with the nose in square to Venus, I mean, that's very naughty. It's very disrespectful. With Mars in square to Venus, it can bring up a lot of emotional problems, or it could be like where we feel used, or we make another feel used. There's definitely a lack of diplomacy or tact. It's where the masculine and the feminine come into opposition, so it's very coarse behavior. So this is definitely like the feminine versus the masculine, and the masculine versus the feminine. So, we need to watch out for that as well. And we also have the Black Moon Lilith at 0 degrees in Scorpio. So she's starting to hit Scorpio now. So maybe she will be leaving Virgo and just flitting between Libra and Scorpio, but she is bound to be hitting Ophiuchus soon as well. So that's me. My sun is right here somewhere. Yeah. So, Scorpions, and I mean, Virgos have been going through the dark night of the soul recently, and Libra too. Now Scorpio is being hit, and Ophiuchus will be hit as well. But right at present in this chart, at 0 degrees in Scorpio, wow, and Lilith isn't in a terrain that wants to work with her. In Scorpio, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, who's Lilith's ex-husband, and I've said this before. Their marriage was very dark and very kind of how can I put it? It was dark and it was just spiteful. So she's entered into Pluto's domain here, and she's in opposition to Uranus, who's actually transiting through Taurus. Now, this opposition isn't, when she opposes or conjuncts Uranus, it's not as bad as, what it could be with other planets, but there is a struggle to find our place in this world with this energy. There is a lack of inner peace, and it's very difficult to relax and live in the present moment. It also creates a lot of upheaval, which keeps us off balance. It can also bring us in touch with shadowy people. Now, I have done an article on the Mercury retrograde, and yesterday I posted up the new horoscopes for the season of Cancer. And for those of you that are not aware, please bear in mind this is 13 Star Sign Astrology, working with the true lifetime sky, which means it's Astronomical Astrology. So I'm going to leave it there. And as always, I'm sending you peace and much love. Take care.